Hello, everyone. Welcome to the College Tracker Show. Welcome back. Welcome back. We'll get started in just a moment. We have the University of Vermont with us today. So we're very excited to hear what they have to say about their university. And we're going to get started and see who our special guests are today. All right, perfect. So, welcome everyone to the College Tracker Show. Like I said, we have the University of Vermont with us today. So, we have an amazing group with us today. So, I will let them go through and introduce themselves. And we'll start with Liz.
Great. Thank you so much, Victoria. Hi, everyone. My name is Liz Hamlin-Voles, and I'm one of the Senior Assistant Directors of Admissions at the University of Vermont. So my role is to work with students to recruit them. I have a couple of different territories, including Canada, but also Colorado and Western New York, where I grew up. And I've been at the university for 23 years. So I will pass it on to Andrea.
Thank you. It's great to be here this evening. Hi, everyone. My name is Andrea Stanley, and I'm a career counselor within the UVM Career Center. And I've been at UVM for almost 2 years, and I'm currently the Career Center's International Student Liaison, and I co-lead our career business and entrepreneurship and food, environment, and sustainability interest groups. And I'll go ahead and pass it to Joe.
Hi, everyone. My name is Joe Gervais. I'm an associate director in the Department of Athletics at UVM. I just finished my 29th year at UVM. I'm an alum. I was an assistant coach for men's hockey for a number of years. And since the year 2000, I've been more in the student services side. I now currently oversee our NCAA compliance program. I oversee a few sports, including women's and men's hockey and men's lacrosse. And I'm a liaison also to admissions and our international education office. And so I've worked with a lot of international students and a lot of Canadian students over the years. So I'm looking forward to the session.
Excellent. And Darby.
Hi, I am Darby. I am a senior in the College of Arts and Sciences. I'm studying sociology with 2 minors, one in Spanish and the other in religion. I hail from Kelowna, British Columbia, but also grew up a little bit in New Hampshire. Outside of the classroom, I participate in club sports, and I'm also working at a bed and breakfast for the summer.
Excellent. Thank you so much for those great introductions. And we'll go ahead and get started with Darby. We want to hear about the student life. Okay. Excellent. So, Darby, can you just tell us a little more about yourself and your journey to the University of Vermont?
Sure. So obviously British Columbia is very far away from here. But since I did have a time period where I was in New Hampshire, I knew about University of Vermont and had just been hearing about it from my counselors and just how it would be a new space for me from the West Coast to East Coast. And I was also kind of interested how similar they are, just with having all the mountains around me, but also having a lake nearby. It kind of replicates Kelowna for me. So that's kind of been like why I wanted to come over here. But since being here, I've had a really great time. Although it is hard, like being away from my parents, we've done a good job with like FaceTiming and Zoom calls, working that into my schedule to be able to really like not miss them too much. And then I go home over Christmas break to see them for a longer period of time in the summers besides this past one.
Nice. And so I know getting homesick and missing your family is a big thing, right? So what other challenges did you have and then how did you overcome them?
Um, I can't think of too many right now, just because when I came here, I obviously didn't really know anyone. I knew a few people I talked to on the Facebook group chat that was created for my year. But then coming in, they had orientation leaders and our resident assistants on the floor that I lived on, and they did a really good job with community building. We would have various events during the first week and throughout the entire year where our RA or resident assistant would just be like, we're all going to bake cookies in our common space, or we're all going to draw or do like something to kind of de-stress and again just build that community, which has been really nice. I also play lacrosse, and so having that as a consistent thing going from home and to Vermont has been really beneficial. Just again building another community, so this place just feels like another home and I don't feel too detached from being out west.
Right, and that's I know exactly about that Facebook because when I went to college, you get the, check out, see who's there before you even get there. So thanks, Facebook. That's nice of you.
It's
Excellent.
definitely.
So what is a typical day like for you?
Yeah, so I typically don't have any like 8:30 classes. So I usually wake up around like 9. On Tuesday, Thursday, I have like a 10:05 class. So I'll wake up, make breakfast, walk to classes, have maybe 2 to 3 classes a day, depending on how my schedule is set up. After that, I usually go to the library, do some studies there. Um, Hang out with friends, eat some food, just to kind of break up my day a little bit. Usually I would return back to my dorm or now back to my apartment since I'm off campus. And again, do more homework. And then I usually have a lacrosse practice or a tour that I have to do after that. So that would be kind of my whole day after coming home, just like relaxing, eating dinner, getting ready for bed. Yeah.
Awesome. So what's one of your favorite things that you love about the University of Vermont?
Hmm. There's a lot of things I like about the University of Vermont just because there's so many opportunities to do really anything you're passionate about. But if I'd have to single out some things, I would say I really appreciate the professors here because they're very communicative, where they have our office hours and you can come there with one question or no questions and just to chat, and they're always willing to talk about anything. And then talking more about like focusing on classes, they're so passionate about what they're teaching. It's really nice to see that in a greater form. And then also, I love the waterfront here. They have a really beautiful waterfront, and it's just a nice green space where you can go. And we have soft serve ice cream down there, which is a tasty little treat on a hot day.
You really sold that. Okay. That was awesome. Loved it. Love it. Excellent. Well, thank you, Darby. And if anyone here has any questions for Darby, I'm pretty sure you'll be hanging out towards the end. So if you have any more questions about student life, definitely go ahead and put your questions in the Q&A box, or yeah, try to put them in the Q&A box. And if you're watching via live stream, hello, you can also write your questions there as well, and we will ask our guest today from the University of Vermont. All right, excellent. Thank you, Darby. We're going to go to Joe and talk about athletics. Excellent. So, welcome, Joe. Can you just give us an overview about just your athletics department in general?
Yeah, we have 16 varsity sports, about 425 total student athletes. Um, in the fall sports season, we have our cross country running, field hockey, men's and women's soccer. Our winter sports are comprised of men's and women's basketball, men's and women's hockey, skiing, both alpine and Nordic, women's swimming and diving. And then in the spring, and there's an indoor track season as well. And in the spring, we have our outdoor track for men and women and men's and women's lacrosse. So our primary sport conference is called America East. This is a number of state universities in New York, including Albany, Stony Brook, Binghamton, the universities of New Hampshire, Maine, University of Massachusetts Lowell. Currently, the University of Hartford, although they just announced a couple of weeks ago that they're moving down from Division I to Division III. And then we have one sort of geographical outlier in our conference, which is University of Maryland, Baltimore County. And then not in that multi-sport conference are our men's and women's hockey and our men's and women's ski programs who are in the separate single sport leagues. We have on-campus facilities. Everything is right on campus. Gutterson Fieldhouse is our hockey arena. It's been there for about 55 years. We're currently undergoing some major renovations of our athletic facilities. We'll be getting a new basketball arena, which will be called the Tarrant Center, which will be connected to our hockey arena, to Gutterson Fieldhouse. And we have 2 outdoor fields, one for field hockey, and then one that is shared for men's and women's lacrosse, men's and women's soccer. And those are artificial surfaces, which are important in our climate here in Vermont, which is not unlike much of Canada. But they're out there early in the season, but January, February, and we're playing games outdoors late into the fall, and believe it or not, in February onward in the spring semester. We have part of our athletic program, which is a little bit unique to UVM, is that our campus recreation facilities are also part of our department. So all of these facilities are really under one roof. We have a general fitness center. We have a number of dance studios, other group fitness areas, as well as an indoor track. And those areas are getting a major renovation as well. So it's going to be a little bit of disruption for the next couple of years here, but the students will be very well served with these upgraded facilities for sure.
Nice. And so, what do you have a lot of Canadian student athletes at your school?
Yeah, we have about just over 60 international student athletes. About half of those are Canadian, from all across Canada. The largest number from Ontario and Quebec. We're only 90 miles from Montreal, share a border with Quebec. Ottawa's just under 4-hour drive. Toronto about 7 hours, 6-7 hours. So we have a lot of Ontario and Quebec student athletes primarily, and as well as from out west, and a few in the Maritimes as well. And the largest number in men's and women's hockey, followed by both men's and women's basketball. Some of our all-time great alums in the sport of basketball are Canadian, both men and women. Followed by lacrosse, soccer, field hockey. We've had a few runners, a couple of swimmers, all from Canada. So Canada's well represented in our program.
Excellent. And so we have a question about just more, where can they find about this information? So while you were talking, they said, do you have a running track indoor or outdoor? And then is this information published anywhere? Where can they find this information?
And our athletics website, which is uvmathletics.com, has information about all of our programs, our facilities. We do have an indoor running space. It's not a regulation indoor track, so we don't tend to host large indoor meets. We do have a very nice outdoor track, which was custom built about 5 years ago. And so that's a nice facility, and we've hosted some of our conference championships there. But that website, you can link to facilities from there and get some visuals of what our facilities look like. We're very blessed with a lot of support from our local community, with attendance at our basketball and hockey games in particular. So it's a great place to be, and these facility upgrades are going to really enhance our program.
Awesome. Thank you. And so they want to know about your ski program. Where are they training?
Our Alpine team trains at Stowe, Vermont, which is one of the bigger ski areas in the east. There's a ski club called Mount Mansfield Ski Club, which is housed at Stowe. It's a large resort, so it's not in the big main part, but where the ski club is where our team goes. We've hosted the NCAA championships a number of times at Stowe. Our Nordic team trains in a few different places. There's a place called Trapp Family Lodge, which is about 40 miles from campus, and so is Stowe, is about 40-minute drive up to the mountain. So our Alpine and our Nordic teams spend a fair amount of time getting to and from their training facilities. Yeah, the other facilities that our Nordic team trains at is Craftsbury, which is a very well-known training center in Vermont, where they do make some snow. They have lights, beautiful Nordic facility there. And then there's a smaller place near campus for the odd times when they don't get all the way out to their normal training facility. There's a closer place where they do train. But our ski program are some of our most elite athletes. We have a number of Canadian Olympians who've come through the program. And we have 6 national championships in that program. Most recently in 2012, we finished second in the NCAAs when we hosted last in 2019. So it's a lot of fun to follow those programs, and Canadians are well represented for them.
And they want to know with the alpine skiing, what's the criteria to be a part of the team?
It's a relatively small team. There are probably 7 women and 7 men, maybe 8 on the alpine team. The NCAA rules, eligibility rules for skiing are different than most sports. Most sports, you have a 1-year grace period after you graduate high school before your 5-year eligibility clock starts ticking. In skiing, that eligibility clock doesn't start until you turn 21 years old. So many of our skiers, particularly in the alpine side, have had a run with their respective national team programs. So Alpine Canada, we have a lot of a number of Europeans as well, Norway, Sweden, Germany from time to time. And they often will train with the national team, give it their best shot to stay with that team through 1 or more Olympic cycles. But if they don't quite get there, then the collegiate route is sometimes the next step for them. So a lot of them do come in a little bit older at age 20 or 21. Our coaches are evaluating results from other events, whether those are NORAM races in the US or Europa Cup races in Europe. And so how students fare in those, that's sort of, you could consider it sort of the development levels below the World Cup level. And so our coaches are evaluating how prospects are doing at those developmental levels or with the respective national team. And for someone who maybe doesn't quite get to the Olympics, this is an attractive route for a lot of them.
So let's hop into some recruiting because I'm seeing a lot of those questions pop up here. So how are you currently recruiting? Are you taking any video submissions?
Video is a great tool both for our coaches to expand their reach and also for prospects who are wanting to make themselves known, reach out to coaches. Up until June 1st, since the pandemic started, we've been in what they've called, the NCAA has called an emergency dead period. So there's been no off-campus recruiting going on. And so videos become even more important than usual. But a lot of video, most coaches are interested in not just a highlight video per se for your sport, but actual competition so that they can see if they're evaluating a prospect, not just when they're at their very best, but also at other times during whatever competition may be in play, to see how prospects respond when things get tough, which they do in sports from time to time. So by way of introduction, a highlight video might be appropriate, but in terms of follow-up, the more video you can provide, the better. I think it is important if you have an interest in a particular university to reach out to the coach via email, provide a resume of sorts, highlights of your athletic career. The academic piece is very, very important. UVM and many other schools have a high standard in terms of the academic performance of their athletes, well above the sort of the floor of basic eligibility. And so that's attractive for our coaches when a promising student athlete also has the academic chops to go with it. And Liz may talk about this later, but through the admissions process, there are for very strong students, there are some academic merit awards that are available that can help with the cost of athletics as well. So our coaches are incentivized to go out and find strong academic prospects.
And speaking of coaches, so one of our guest attendees today are saying, how can I get in contact with the men's lacrosse team? I've tried text, phone, email, but nothing has worked. What's your advice?
That's a good question. The coaches, be persistent. It sounds like this person has been. That is important. Um, at UVM, that's one of the teams that I work with. I believe at some point our email may be on here, or you can find my email address on our athletics website. Feel free to CC me on an email or send me an email that you've sent the coach, and I'm happy to try to make that connection. In general, our coaches are recruiting to a particular roster number. It's not generally an open tryout situation, though many of our coaches will have a brief tryout of some kind for students who've reached out and are in our coaches' view sort of close to the level that they would need to be at to be a part of the program. But for a variety of reasons, we do have limits on our rosters. And so coaches are recruiting to that number. So it is hard to just come out of the blue. So I would encourage to start early as sophomore year, to start that communication and to be able to share whatever athletic experiences you have that could be, that get the attention of our coaching staff. And then certainly through the junior year, in many sports, the NCAA has tried to rein in the very early recruiting. But by junior year, a lot of our coaches have their commits for that class, for not the upcoming academic year, but the following one. That's not to say that someone, who's might consider a late bloomer, or that in that gap year beyond high school for most sports, finding another opportunity with a club team or a prep school or another competitive environment that might have been different from where you were previously. Those prospects do come through the door as well. So be persistent, stay with it. And if you aren't getting a response from a coach, feel free to reach out to me as well.
Excellent. And they want to know more about full ride scholarships. So you may help me with this one, but what standards does a female need to run for the 400 to get a full ride scholarship? How can they find out more details about that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I can't tell you the number off the top of my head, and it's not always based purely on that in terms of what's available. At this point in time, we do not have a lot of scholarship monies available in our track programs, and so at the moment we don't have any full scholarship athletes in those sports. Some of our other sports, in the sport of basketball, it's considered by the NCAA what they call a head count sport, meaning you're either on a full scholarship or nothing. There's no partial scholarships in those sports of basketball. Most of our other sports can and do. There are NCAA limits on how many scholarships. So most of our programs would have maybe a small number, or depending on the sport, maybe a larger number of full scholarships, but then would also have a lot of partial scholarships. It might be $5 or $10 or $20 or $30,000. That obviously helps with the cost of attendance.
And let's see, we have a few more questions. So, are your track recruiting standards published anywhere? Um, that's pretty much the first part of the question. So, is that the uvmathletics.com? Is that the email? Where can they find it?
UVMathletics.com. I wouldn't say our track recruiting standards are published, but if you go onto that site and look at the schedule and results for our men's and women's track and field team, you could do that for this past year. You could go back to prior years and you would see what the times or the marks, the distances are for those events. And so some of those might be one or two other schools competing at an event. If you look at our conference meets or New England meets, those are larger. That would include more schools than just a couple at a time, and you would have a sense for what is the level that that those athletes are competing at in that particular event.
Excellent. And what type of academic support does the athletic department offer to new Canadian varsity students? Is there a mentor program, for example?
Well, one of the advantages of being on a team, and Darby could attest to this, almost no matter what team or what level, is that you have that built-in group of contacts, your peers who are experiencing very similar things. We also have a staff of athletics advisors, 3 full-time. One of our other associate athletic directors works with them also in addition to those 3. And they work with each of our teams in terms of helping them understand what the demands are, what their schedule might look like. The advisors in athletics don't replace a faculty advisor or someone in the academic units on campus, but are really work hand in hand with those staff across campus. And so there's assistance with scheduling. There's assistance with if someone has, they're either undecided or they're thinking about changing a major. Our athletics advisors are often a good first stop in terms of exploring options. We work with, at UVM, there are 7 colleges and schools for undergraduates, and we work with student athletes who are in all of those areas. And so unlike a faculty advisor who's in that one particular academic unit, our advisors have some contact with all of those units. And so they can provide good information and good guidance in terms of what the options are. We work closely with the dean's offices. We're required to monitor student athletes' eligibility every semester. And so there's a lot of contact and back and forth between the dean's office for us to certify eligibility of all of our athletes. So over the years, our staff, we get to know the academic folks across campus and are really well positioned to help our student athletes understand what their options might be. We also can help students set up tutoring if they need it. We generally utilize the campus-wide tutors that are available. These are typically undergraduate students who go through some kind of training, have a background in a particular subject, and then they can actually be paid as tutors. And our athletics advisors can help our students set up those appointments, can advise as to which direction they might want to go. There are group study sessions, there's individual tutoring. And so we're really sort of, our position is really to connect students with existing resources and help them navigate the process.
And we have a couple more questions. How are Canadians selected for your hockey program?
Hockey is one where there are a good number of scholarships for both the men and the women. Our league, Hockey East, has a standard that will be at the maximum of 18 full scholarships. Hockey is a sport where they can and are split up. So the majority of the students are probably on a partial, but there are a number who are on a full scholarship. And the coaches in their respective teams have a variety of ways that they recruit. They have their own personal network from their time over the years. They've worked at other schools, they've worked at other levels. Currently, we have a new men's coach as of this past year. He worked in the NHL for a number of different teams, and so he's got an extensive network of coaches, junior coaches, advisors who are essentially in the player agent business, but working on the amateur side. They're referred to as family advisors. And they're obviously out watching. They get out when they can to watch certain, whether it's a showcase event or a league games during the regular season, playoff games, national program development camps, whether that's in Canada or in the US or in Europe. So there's quite a variety and an extensive um, set of networks that our coaches use. And then once they identify someone, then they would start working individually with that student.
All right. And are SATs looked at or required for women's hockey program?
Currently, the pandemic has changed some of this, and again, I'll defer to Liz for some of the details. Currently, UVM is test optional. Currently, the NCAA is not requiring standardized tests either. That will be the case for this upcoming year and one more academic year, so into 2022-23. After that, it's not been determined. Prior to the pandemic, the NCAA Eligibility Center does require either an SAT or an ACT test. And I would expect it would be likely that they'll go back to that after the 2022-23 academic year.
And I'm happy to add in just 1 second about if you're not an athlete, you're not part of the NCAA Division I programs, you're an international student at UVM, we have not required SAT or ACT for a number of years. If you're a domestic student, again, like Joe has said, this current year that we're in, plus fall of 2022 and fall of 2023, we are test optional for domestic students. So depending on kind of which bracket you fall into, whether you're a Division I, NCAA international student, again, you'll have to kind of connect and make sure that you're meeting all the compliance. But again, if you're not an athlete, then as an international student, you do not need the SAT or ACT. You're welcome to send it. Again, it's if you feel like it will add to your candidacy, go ahead and send officially.
Thank you, Liz. Thank you, Joe. I appreciate all your time answering those questions. There are more questions, but we need to take just a quick moment. We're going to go to admissions, but everyone, we see your questions. Feel free to continue to bring them in. And then after the admissions portion, we'll come back and do a Q&A with all of our guests today. Okay? All right. Thank you so much. All right, Liz, hand it over to you. You're on mute.
All I was saying is I'm going to try to share my screen. So let me just make this all happen. Perfect. All right. So this is just a beautiful shot of the University of Vermont.
And Liz, you need to flip it.
Oh, no. Okay. Sorry about that. Hold on 1 second. I do this all the time during my daily work, and unfortunately, when it comes to the moment that I need to do it, it doesn't work so well. So let me just try it again.
No worries. Oh, and let me drop Joe's email in the chat. All right, so I have Joe's email in the chat.
How is that? Better?
Perfect. Yep.
Yay. All right, let's get going then. Sorry about that. All right, so again, beautiful picture of the University of Vermont. This is the UVM Green. We're located in Burlington, Vermont. And this is just a wonderful map to give you a sense of where we're located in New England. As Joe mentioned, we're about 90 miles southeast of Montreal and about 6.5 hours to Toronto if you're going to be driving, as well as about 3.5 hours away from Boston and about 5.5 hours drive to New York City, only about an hour by flight. So just know that we are located here and it's a pretty small city by the terminology of Montreal and also Toronto and Vancouver, other larger cities in Canada. But in Vermont, Burlington is the largest city in the state. So I'm going to be joined in doing this presentation with Andrea as well as Darby, but I've got the first couple of slides. And just to give you a sense again, Vermont as a state is one of the smallest in the country of the US. And we have students coming from all across the United States. About 47 to 48 states are usually represented. And we also draw from outside of the country. About 6% of our students are international. And they're coming from about 45 different areas around the world. As Joe mentioned, we do have a number of Canadian students, as well as drawing from China, from Europe, and you can kind of see the different countries where people are. And our student body is about 10,500 at the undergraduate level, and then we have just under 2,000 or so who are at the graduate level. So what this really provides you as a student is really a lot of great backgrounds all coming together. Conversations that you're having in your classrooms are going to be rich, and they're going to have a lot of varied backgrounds. And I think that is something that really makes UVM a great place to study and spend your time. So academically, Joe kind of also mentioned a little bit about the 7 undergraduate schools and colleges at the university, and you can see them listed here on your screen. And they're different sizes. The College of Arts and Sciences is actually about half of the student population, and they have about 35 to 40 different majors, literally from A to Z. It's our liberal arts and sciences college within the National Research University that UVM is. And so you have a lot of different options. And as you come into the university, we in the admissions office are going to ask you on the application to put down a first choice major as well as a second choice major. So you might know right now that you're interested in going into engineering or psychological sciences or biology or perhaps political science, or you might be undeclared and you're not sure, or you have a number of ideas, but you haven't pinpointed it yet. And at the point of your application, that's where we're actually going to review your application. And I'll talk about this a little bit later, but we're going to ask you to kind of select one of these different majors as a first choice and a second choice. And that's how we're going to get you started. And the academic schools and colleges really become like an academic home and a starting point for you. And as Darby will probably discuss, you can change your major. Many students do as they come in and explore their time at UVM. So just know that there's a lot of different opportunities, over 100 different majors. We also find that some students will decide that they'd like to stay on at the University of Vermont and do one of our accelerated master's programs. So this allows you to do both an undergraduate degree and a master's degree, typically in about 5 years. And it can save you time and it can save you money, and allowing you to kind of move on to whatever is next for you, whether that's a professional school or whether it's going on to directly into employment. So just know that there's a lot of opportunities. And as Joe mentioned, a lot of support in advising for students. Our faculty are folks that are both doing research and also teaching in the classroom. They are world-class scientists. They're really honing in on new discoveries, but they really do love to teach. And at UVM, the average class size is around 32 students, and about 80% of our 80% of our classes are about 40 students and under. So when Darby is talking, perhaps she can give you a little bit of a sense of the kinds of classes that she's had and the sizes of those. But really, I think it's good to know that you are going to get to know who your faculty members are as you go through your time at the University of Vermont. And we are a land grant institution, and really a land grant institution is really focused on education that really kind of improves the health of the society that is around us. And so everything that's done at the University of Vermont is really done with purpose. So the clubs and the organizations and the different opportunities for you are all right there. Now, some of the things that are really stick out about the University of Vermont can be contradictory when you first look at them. So we are old. We were founded in 1791. We're actually the 5th oldest institution in New England. So that's behind Dartmouth, Harvard, Yale, and Brown. But we're constantly renewing our programs and kind of keeping up with the 21st century, both in the academic programs as well as the facilities on campus. And our students, about 10,000 undergraduates, it's kind of a unique size. There's usually a lot of research universities that are much larger than that, or you've got smaller liberal arts and sciences colleges. And so we are kind of nicely placed in between those two different areas. And so we find that a lot of our students do like the size because you can have it all really and have all of the opportunities and facilities of a national research institution, but have the ability to connect with people in a much smaller kind of feel and community. And one of the other areas, as I mentioned, Burlington is a small city within Vermont, but it's an active and a vibrant city. It's a college town, so there's a couple of other colleges here. And you also find that you've got great arts, music. Darby mentioned the waterfront. So if you're somebody who likes to be able to kind of go to a concert one night, but then get out and hike the next morning, or go ski in the afternoon, and then, go down and see a movie, or go to an art gallery opening, or, have your internship in a tech organization, or work for a nonprofit, you can do all of those things in Burlington because it's really just a good size and accessible. So right now I'm going to pass this on to Andrea, and she's going to talk a little bit about the Career Center and her role and how we support students to kind of move on to the next level.
Great, thanks so much, Liz, and hi again, everyone. So first off, the Career Center at UVM is here to support students from the beginning of their undergrad journey and then all the way through graduation and even beyond as alumni. And so it may seem early and even a bit strange to be talking about careers when students, and you aren't even on campus yet, but we also support students with a lot of other things. Some of what we've talked about earlier, like major choice, career exploration, finding internships, and even finding part-time jobs while you're on campus. So our goal as a career center, but also I would say for UVM more broadly, is for you to be and to really feel career ready when you graduate. And so career readiness is really just about having the right skills as you enter the workforce. And those skills, at least as national research tells us, are things like teamwork, leadership, equity, inclusion, problem solving, communication, and multicultural fluency, just to name a few. And these are skills that you're going to learn through your academics, but also through your extracurricular endeavors, from part-time jobs to student clubs, sports, and research, et cetera. So our role is really just to support you with recognizing and then also articulating what your unique and individual strengths are. To tell you a little bit about our department, we organize our services to support you through what we call interest groups. And we have 7 interest groups, which are networks of students, alumni, employers, and faculty members who have similar career or personal interests. So just to name a few, we have interest groups that include science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, so our STEM interest group, health professions interest group, business and entrepreneurship, for example, as well. So instead of advising students to go network, what we're really trying to do is invite students to come join our network with the goal of supporting students in exploration and then expanding their curiosity, confidence, courage, and all of those things. And lastly, I'll just note that in addition to Career Center interest groups, we offer career fairs with local, national, and global employers, career readiness workshops, drop-in hours with peer mentors. So if you need a resume or a cover letter reviewed, for example, we do class presentations and more. If you wouldn't mind moving to the next slide, please. So if there's anything, or I would just say if there's one thing to take away from this slide, it's just how important it is to gain experiences like internships and club involvement, for example, because all of these are opportunities to explore your interests, gain skills, and then connect with people throughout your time at UVM. And with this in mind, I just wanted to share some of the great ways that the UVM Career Center can support you with getting this experience. We've heard it come up a couple times already, but first is just internships. They are a great way to gain professional experience over a semester or a summer and give you exposure to a specific job or even a job field while gaining confidence and gaining skills in your area of interest. So the UVM Career Center does specifically support connecting students to internship opportunities through hosting several career fairs throughout the academic year, but also regularly encouraging students to use something called Handshake, which is our job and internship platform. And this is also a nationwide university platform just for university students. And so one of the Career Center's important internship partners is the Office of International Education, who supports international students with work authorizations and eligibility requirements for internships and jobs after college. So that is also supplemental in addition to our career readiness support. Another thing I wanted to just point out is in addition to the traditional semester or summer-long internships, the Career Center recently launched something called the UVM Micro Internship Program in 2020. I'm really excited about this. And it connects UVM students to local and national opportunities. And it's a little bit different in that it's more flexible than a traditional internship. It's short-term paid professional assignments. And projects usually involve 5 to 40 hours a week. They can be done remotely, so they're super flexible, and they can be done throughout the year. So I like to mention that just in terms of a micro internship is a great option for students who want to get some internship experience on their resume, want a little bit more flexibility with a short-term commitment. And it's particularly great for students who are studying business and tech, for example. I'll close this slide out just by saying that there are a lot of other ways to get experience in addition to internships. So a few stats for you is just undergrad research. 40% of seniors report involvement in research with a faculty mentor while at UVM. This is a really notable stat and something that we're really proud of. Service learning is also big. We have over 100 service and civic learning courses at UVM. And in addition, study abroad is also a great opportunity for competency building and to get experience with over 500 programs and in 70 countries. And I'll close this with just saying not to forget the student clubs or orgs. UVM has over 200 recognized student organizations, so you can explore your interests and connect with other students. And just even in the health field, for example, you'll find around 30 health-related clubs on campus. So things ranging from the Vermont Student Assembly for Public Health to the classics like pre-vet, pre-dent, and pre-med. Next slide, please. And lastly, I just wanted to close with how we are really supporting students from the Career Center side. We know that networking and finding a job can be really overwhelming, especially in this time. And so we really try to focus on the idea of connecting with people, building relationships, and exploring interests by just trying things out. And so I cannot emphasize enough that UVM alumni are great resources for students to connect with because they understand the experience at UVM and they have that really great real world work experiences. So first off, the Career Center supports connecting students to alum by collaborating mostly on virtual and in-person events. And I'll just highlight a few that I think are fun and significant. One is we have a STEM networking night where students can gather really in a casual community and converse with alumni and employers in their industry and also with those with shared identities. We also do pre-law panels often that bring successful alums back to offer their key insights to students aspiring to careers in law. And we support students interested in UVM's 3+2 and 3+3 programs, offering high achieving students an opportunity to earn a bachelor's degree, a BA or BS, and a Juris Doctor JD degree in a total of 5 to 6 years. So some of that accelerated programs as Liz had mentioned earlier. And then lastly, we have really fun career focused weeks such as Get Hired Week, which just offers a little bit of something for everyone. And this is for students who are interested in business, and they have a variety of options in which to, again, connect with alumni and employers. And for these events, we partner with the Grossman School of Business, who has 4 main concentrations: accounting, finance, marketing, and business analytics, and also interdisciplinary themes such as global and sustainable business and entrepreneurship. So that's really helping to support students with business careers and those that are considering an MBA in the future. In addition to events, I'll also just put in a plug for the UVM Connect, which is one of our connection platforms at UVM. This allows students to virtually connect with alumni through the platform. And as a career counselor, I often walk students through how to use UVM Connect to find alums and have a virtual coffee or an informational interview, maybe pursue a job shadowing opportunity. So again, just making those really important and authentic connections. And then very lastly for this slide, before I hand it back over, is just to say that I wanted to share we have a very exciting new program also connecting pre-med students to current med students through our Med Mentors program. And this is just one of the several ways that we support pre-med and pre-dent students. Another is our newly expanded health professions portfolio process, and that's offering intensive and supported paths for students preparing to apply for advanced study en route to a clinic career. So I know that was a lot in a short amount of time, but I do hope that this helped paint a picture of just career services at UVM, how we support students with connecting to experiences, how important and awesome our vast alumni network is, and how our 4-year path to career success and within the Career Center will help make the most of your time on campus. So thank you so much. I'll hand it over from here.
Alrighty, so hi again. I am Darby. I am a senior in the College of Arts and Sciences studying sociology from British Columbia. And I'll just talk to you about our residence experience, which is where you're going to be living. UVM requires you to live on campus for your first 2 years. And a really unique way that UVM does housing is through our learning communities. So these are just a community of people living in your dormitories that have something in common with you. So they're all listed right in front of you, but they kind of just allow you to have something in common with everyone that you're meeting on your first day in your first week. I was in the leadership and social change learning community, and that was really beneficial to me because I met a bunch of different students who I wouldn't have met because they're not in my major. So a lot of my friends are engineers. I am definitely not into math or anything, but knowing that they had something in common, they're all about the social change and keeping leadership a strong value in their life was really helpful for me. And it really just allows for the community to be another home for you. So it's not like an awkward space in your new dormitory, which might be like 3,000 miles away from where you are, or just like right across the border. But again, it's super beneficial to have that. A lot of my best friends are from the learning communities that I was in, and we continue to live together to this day. So 3 years running with my same roommate that I was with my first year. So that is our learning communities. I'll talk to you a little bit more about the entirety of our community. We're really dedicated to supporting and celebrating every single identity that we have at UVM. So these are our main values: respect, integrity, innovation, openness, justice, and responsibility. And I do think UVM does a really good job of upholding these values, whether it's through our Student Government Association, which is really connecting the administration with the students and like really hearing the students' voices. Or it's innovation with creating new majors or minors, or like new clubs and anything like that. But the values of responsibility and respect are also really upheld, just because everyone at UVM seems to keep each other accountable for their actions and just what they're doing and how they're living their lives. So it creates a very positive environment, which I really appreciated, just because again, coming into a place that I didn't know anyone, I wasn't sure if like I would fit the level of everyone else here, but everyone's been so kind and had a positive effect on me. Continually, we also really value diversity, inclusion, and equity in almost all aspects of the UVM experience. We have 4 identity centers throughout our UVM community. And those are just identity centers like the Interfaith Center for students of all faiths. There's the PRISM Center for students of the LGBTQ community. And these are just little homes that give a space for dialogue and kind of just allow even more openness through our UVM like lifestyle. And again, just gives us another home to any identities that we have here. Continually, we have 4 general requirements. So there's a little deviation, but we are required to take 2 courses that are focused on diversity. One is going to be more focused on the US like diversity and how that's happened. And the other one is a more global lens with diversity. And then continually, we have a sustainability requirement. So that will just give you another overview of how sustainability is valued in community. And it's also a big value at UVM. We try to have a compost bin everywhere, recycling bin, and just doing our best to kind of allow the environment we're living in to be sustainable. Also, we have Burlington as our city. So that's a really great place to have, just because it's so convenient for you to go from our campus straight into the Burlington greater community. And that allows us to be able to have internships, jobs, get a really good bite to eat down by the waterfront, or like I said, get a creamy, which is like a soft serve ice cream. So we have that, which is really great. But we also have the mountains, like I mentioned earlier, which allows us to ski and hike in the spring and summer. So there's just like everything in this Burlington community that allows you to explore all different types of opportunities if you like going out into the outdoors, or if you like trying every single restaurant that we have here. I really appreciated having a bunch of different restaurants for sure, because then I get to try everything and anything. But also, like I said, I really appreciate the outdoors. I love skiing in the winter. I ski at Sugar Bush Mountain, which is about an hour away from here. And that's been a really good time. And another way for me to like build community through our ski and snowboard club, which is just a club that we have that brings together all our ski and snowboarders and even people that are learning how to ski. And then finally, just going back to kind of our sustainability and how we really value the environment. UVM really wants us to be able to study the environment and get a hands-on experience. Even though I'm not learning about the environment through my major or minor, I've taken plant biology. One of my Spanish classes was about the outdoors. And so we got to go into the outdoors and kind of learn from a new lens. But there's a bunch of different ways that you can learn about the environment, even if it's not like a environment focused class. But also UVM has a really good access to public transportation. We have the CAT bus that runs around our campus. And that is really beneficial, so you don't have to walk to your classes when you wake up super late for your class and don't want to be late. But also people walk everywhere. We have the public transportation that runs through the Burlington area, and there's buses to get you to and from the Boston airport or to New York, I'm pretty sure. And then we also have bikes. So there's a lot of different ways for you to get around that's in a more sustainable way. Continually, UVM also puts an emphasis on sustainability when creating their new buildings and spaces. We have a LEED Silver certification required for all of our new buildings, which just really means that our building is going to be the most sustainability. I'm not sure how to say that word, but it's a very sustainable building where it's using the minimum amount of like power and just kind of keeping it as low cost and low as gas emissions to the environment. But just putting an emphasis on having that green and gold standard for our UVM community. Yeah, that's all for me. I'll pass it on over to Liz.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Darby. And I'm just going to have two different slides to talk a little about the admissions process. So just to be aware, so we have early action and regular admissions. And what we do is really a holistic review of your application, meaning that all of the parts that you send to us are going to be reviewed. And that really includes the application itself, the essay. We do also have an optional essay. We look at your transcript. We look to make sure that you're meeting entrance requirements, as well as, providing a robust sense of rigor from what you've been able to take within the context of the high school that you've been attending. So just be aware that we're going to be really looking at your application. It's not like here's a GPA and here's a test score and here's how you meet this line and you're in. We actually are humans. We're looking at all your information, and I think that really makes it a special kind of place. As again, we mentioned about being test optional for our international students. And again, for any domestic students who might be watching right now, we are also our test optional for the fall of 2022 and the fall of 2023. So again, if you feel like you've taken one of the tests and you feel like that they are strong, like right now our middle 50% averages range anywhere between a 1200 to a 1400 on the SAT, or a composite score of 28 to 33. Those are the middle 50% ranges. So again, if you feel like you're, in that ballpark or above, and you feel like it's something that could add to your candidacy, go ahead and feel free to send it along. Otherwise, we'll use the other information that's part of your application. Sometimes students have taken advanced placement courses or international baccalaureate courses in their high school experience, and we do have different cutoffs that might allow you to bring in some college level credit. So we use the application not just for admissions, but we also use it to determine merit-based scholarships. And these merit-based scholarships range anywhere from $8,000 to $20,000 per year. They are renewable at the end of each year based on your cumulative GPA. And then our students are also reviewed at the time of application for the Honors College, which is an option and kind of an enhancement to your education, also a residential learning community on campus. So we don't offer any kind of federal financial aid to students who are international. However, there are some jobs on campus or in the community that are not considered work study, which is a federal program. And a student who's international is able to work up to 20 hours per week. Just to give a sense again of what the application process looks like, we use the common application or the coalition application. Again, looking at transcripts. If English is not your first language, we definitely will need to see English proficiency, and you can do that either through the scores from the TOEFL or the IELTS or the Duolingo English test, and all the criteria are found on our website. We do also ask at the time of proof of funding to understand that you do have the funds to come and provide for at least 1 year of your time at UVM. And we do an optional interview if that's something that you're interested in as well. And just so as we kind of leave you with this beautiful shot of the Burlington, this is campus in front, Burlington in the background, and Lake Champlain in the Adirondack Mountains in New York State across the lake from us. Hopefully this has really given you the sense of perhaps if you can see yourself here at the University of Vermont. I hope that our panelists have given you a lot of information to think about, but definitely stay connected to UVM, join our mailing list, make sure you're getting our emails and our print material, and then also just stay on track with your entrance requirements and admissions requirements. You can find that on our website. And then when it's time, you can go ahead and apply through the common application or the coalition applications. And I think we might have a couple of seconds for questions. I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
Thank you so much for that information. And we're just, if you don't mind, we're going to go into a little bit of overtime, just a little bit. We have a few questions from the live stream guests that we have today. So this is a question from, let me make sure, from Brad. So if a lacrosse prospect, I want to make sure Joe's still there. Okay, he's there. Let me switch it to gallery. Okay, perfect. So I can see everyone. If a lacrosse prospect from Canada is looking to make sure they're on the radar for the coach, can you direct us to a website to build a profile, or is it just to email the coach to stay informed? So that's the first part of the question.
I think emailing directly and probably to coaches at a number of different schools, so that it depends on the current makeup of the team, the position you play, et cetera. And so just to explore any and all options, and certainly in the US is a little different from what I understand of the Canadian intercollegiate athletic system, where there are 3 divisions in the US in the NCAA, and there are other schools outside of the NCAA in what's called the NAIA. There are community colleges, 2-year schools, many of which have teams. And so there are lots of different levels to explore. So expand that out as much as you can. I'm not sure there's a particular site that I would recommend as far as building a profile. I think that direct contact is important. I'm sure there's a whole industry built up around this recruitment process that are outside of universities and colleges, people who run showcase events, people who have recruiting services. So those are options that you could check out, but I would start with the direct contact with the coach via email.
Okay, and Joe, I know you wrote back to this in the chat, but if you could just briefly go over I'll go over the question. It was, is a prospect better off playing high caliber U.S. high school field lacrosse or becoming the best junior Canadian box player that there could be?
Well, a lot of Canadian box players have made a big impact in U.S. college lacrosse because of the smaller spaces and the skills that are developed in those smaller spaces. The Canadian athletes in Division One men's lacrosse have a sort of a disproportionate share of the scoring, the goal scoring in the U.S. college lacrosse, and so those box players are very much on the radar of men's lacrosse coaches in the U.S. But that field experience is important as well. The more positions you can play, the better understanding you have from different perspectives on the game is always helpful.
Excellent. And let's go back. There are a couple questions. Those are the questions from Brad. And then we had a question from Clinton. Would like to know exactly what criteria is needed for Canadian female soccer players, what they would need to qualify for a scholarship in any NCAA division or NAIA. Also, what are the differences between each division?
Okay, a lot of ways to go with this question. In general, in the NCAA structure, divisions 1 and 2 can offer athletics scholarships. Division 3 does not offer athletics scholarships. There are other sources of aid based on academic performance and other criteria. And some of the Division 3 schools can offer fairly generous aid, even though it's not technically athletic scholarship. And so there are a lot of Canadians at all levels, I would say, in multiple sports. It's hard for me to say what exact criteria for women's soccer. Our coach, we've had a few women's players on our team at UVM from Canada. Most of our team are currently from the US. I would go on and look at you can go on almost any, certainly in Division 1 university, and look at some of the footage, not just highlights. You may be able to stream some games and get a sense for the overall level. But again, you're going to want to put yourself into a competitive environment if possible. In the sport of soccer, that's often outside of a school context and into the club world at various levels. Some are in clubs that are associated with professional or semi-professional teams. Certain leagues might be in the off season from a high school league, so that any way you can challenge yourself to play at the highest level you can is always helpful.
Question from Jim. How do I get started to get my son? The son is entering grade 10 in September 2021. How do I get my son on the radar for U.S. admissions in September 2024? Let's see. Okay. Please provide the general steps to be followed.
So is this a question about admissions or about athletics?
I have a feeling.
Because from the admissions standpoint, all
yeah,
you need to do
let's
is
just take both.
from the admissions standpoint, all you really need to do is just go to our website, and there's a space to say request info and sign up, put your information in there, and we will be happy to send you lots of emails, and there's lots of good information that comes out from us. But from the coach perspective, Joe may be able to take that.
Yeah, certainly reaching out, sharing video is one way. One recent trend over the last number of years in U.S. colleges are for coaches to have camps, or sometimes they might call them prospect days, where you would actually attend a one-day clinic or a multi-day clinic or camp on a college campus. That way you get a sense. I think it's always important. It's been difficult during the pandemic, obviously, but to actually set foot on a campus and get a feel for the place is very important in the recruiting context. And with a prospect day or a clinic, you're actually being coached by that university's coaches. And so you get a feel for how they operate, how they coach, their personalities. Just getting to know them outside of the sport context can be a helpful approach as well.
Awesome. And then we have a question. How does the men hockey program stand out for its role in students' social and emotional development?
Well, I think the experience of participating helps with that because you have to be extremely organized. You have to be diligent with your training. Obviously, you have to keep a high standard in the classroom, and so that is sort of a multitasking in itself. Um, our coach at the moment is very focused on, in our department in general, on sort of holistic development. We would have sessions in various topics, leadership, um, um, in multiple ways. And this coach has such a network that, and it's been interesting opportunity during the pandemic when we haven't had the ability to have a lot of in-person events. He would bring in, various people from the NHL or international hockey and invite both our men's and women's team to take part in these leadership trainings. And so they're always looking to find ways to enhance a student's development, not just on the ice, but in the classroom and off the ice as well.
Excellent. Thank you, Joe. And Liz, I have a couple final questions for you. I saw you're dropping links in the chat about, accepting RESP and OSAP.
Yeah, I'm unclear about the RESP program, but OSAP we do. So yeah, I'll need to do
Okay.
some research on the RESP.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. And then study abroad programs. We'll wrap up with that. What programs do you have?
Yeah, so students, really do have the option, any major. We encourage any major. Sometimes I think there may be a feeling that an engineer can't get away, but there are programs that are done through our Office of International Education. Some are direct exchange programs, some are faculty-led programs that might happen over the winter break or the spring break and be of shorter duration, include a class experience and a trip. So they really do range from probably anywhere from 2 to 3 weeks to a full semester. Many times students, I think, combined a couple of different types of programs over the course of time that they're at University of Vermont. And right now it's pretty close to 30% of our population will do some kind of study abroad, which the national average is about 9%. So it's quite a positive experience for students to be able to provide that. So, and again, 500 different programs in over 70 countries. So the best thing you can do if it's something that you're interested in using as part of your time at UVM over your 4 years is connect with your advisor, connect with the Office of International Education, and start making that conversation happen so you can fit it all together.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Liz, Andrea, Joe, Darby. Thank you so much for joining us today and sharing all that wonderful information about the University of Vermont. And I'll just say UVM. I'm official now,
UVM.
right? Excellent. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for all of our attendees. They said great presentation. So thank you so much for sharing all that information. And Liz, can you let them know one more time how they can find out more information about the university?
Yeah, sure. So all you really need to do is go to www.uvm.edu and go on the admissions page, and there'll be information about how to apply, how to get information, and how to visit. And we do have a number of different virtual programs. So right now I know the Canadian border is closed to the US and vice versa. So virtual options, I really encourage you to do that. We have group information sessions, an amazing tour that's been done virtually, and just lots of great information. So it's not too early. You don't have to wait to actually visit the campus to start learning.
Thank you. And thank you everyone who came into the Zoom and joined us today. Thank you for everyone who is watching on the live stream. We just appreciate you tuning in and checking out the College Tracker show. So we'll see you next time. Thank you so much. Thank you,
Great.
everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Victoria.
Take
Thanks,
care.
everyone.